In this lesson, we are going to return to the structural member command and look at an item called groups. Now before we do that, on the screen, I already have open a sketch. This is a 3D sketch of an 8-foot by 10-foot steel frame shed. You can locate the same file by going to your Work in Files folder and opening Steel Frame Sketch. I am going to begin by selecting Structural Member, ANSI Inch, Square Tube, and 2x2 by 0.25. I'm going to go out to the screen and begin selecting path segments. Now, as I select these path segments over in the Property Manager, you're going to notice a new group was created and the segments are added to this window. I'm going to continue selecting segments, and as I try to select additional segments, it's preventing me. Now, there's a reason for this. Path segments must meet one of two conditions. They must either be continuous, like we see here, or they must be parallel to each other, like we see here. So in order to add additional structural members, I need to add a new group. I'm going to select New Group and select my second continuous path. New Group, a third continuous path, and a new group. Now these path segments are parallel to each other. And then I will close out of the command, and it looks pretty good. Now, I'm going to check my work here. I'm going to zoom up in this intersection just to make sure the orientation of the 2x2 by 0.25 structural member is correct. And this looks good. Looking at this intersection, this also looks good. I'm going to zoom out, zoom up on this intersection here, and it looks like we have an issue. This member here should be rotated so this face and this face are flush with one another. So how do we fix that? We need to go back to the structural member 1, edit the feature, scroll down. This structural member was part of group 4. Select group 4, and then scroll down the Property Manager, and we're going to find an option for rotation angle. The default is 0 degrees. Now this is a 312 pitch on this roof, which is equivalent to 14.04 degrees. So I'm going to key in the correct angle and say OK. And it looks like that corrected the problem. I'm going to zoom out a little bit and zoom in on this intersection, and that doesn't look good. What happened there is when I changed the angle for this structural member, which was part of group 4, it changed the angle for all of the structural members in group 4. So that was not the correct fix. What I should have done is removed this path segment from group 4 and made a new group just for that path segment, and do the same for this one over here. So I'm going to go back to structural member and edit this feature. I'm going to go back to group 4, put it back to 0 degrees, move up to path segments. Now I want to remove these two path segments, and I can do that simply by selecting the path segments. I'm going to create a new group, select this path segment, key in the proper rotation angle, select a new group, select this path segment, key in the proper angle, and close out of the command. I'll zoom up on this intersection. This looks great. I'll zoom up on this one. This one also looks great. Now, before we conclude this lesson, I want to point out two more items. I'm going to zoom up in this intersection, and notice this structural member was trimmed to these two. And that's because the order that you create the groups generally determines the trim order. Next, if I go back to structural member and edit the feature, any of these settings here that you see above groups will affect all groups. So if I change the size from a 2x2 by 0.25 to a 3x3 by 0.25, all of the groups are affected.